Hello and welcome back. As the title of this video suggests, this is sort of my recap end of One Book July 2016 video. So if you did not get a chance to watch the first one, although I think it's the last video right before this, I will put a link below so you can go check that out. But I will recap sort of my setup and then talk a little bit about how I felt about it. And I don't know how much this is getting picked up in the background, but the air conditioner is running right now and I'm hoping it's not causing too much background noise, but that right there, that's the closet that has like our furnace stuff in it, and like I'm right underneath the vent, but I knew that if I waited for it to turn off, I was just not going to get this recorded. So, you know, we're just going to go with it. But anyway, so let's recap what I was using for One Book July. I was using a standard size traveler's notebook in brown, and I had one notebook in it, which is a A5 notebook that was cut down to the Midori size. And then I was using a black 0.5 micron. So that's what I started out with, and that's more or less what I'm finishing with. So I guess I will recap sort of my strategy, or kind of like the system that I was using. So what I was doing is I was using this notebook both as sort of like a like a bullet point journal. I don't do bullet journaling, you know, like that whole system thing, but I do really like to do you know, just recording like bullet point journal entries, just bullet points about how I feel about my day. You know, there's nothing in here that's like super personal, so like I don't have any qualms about showing it. I basically record, you know, like when do I go to the gym, certain milestones that I hit with like my knitting projects, if I'm not feeling well on a certain day, if I did something out of the ordinary for a certain day, stuff like that. So that's why some of them are very short, because it maybe was just kind of a normal day. But it's also very flexible in that, like, if I wanted to write more, I definitely could. But there's a lot less pressure doing it this way, so I've actually been able to keep up every single day. I have made sure to do this. And there's been a couple of days where I've maybe written down like to-dos on a cute post-it note, and then I'll just like glue them in here just because it's cute and it's a little bit of color, and why not? But that has not been the norm. It's happened twice over the past month. So yeah, so that's what I've been using this for. And then starting from the back, I was using it to, I was originally using it for kind of the project stuff. So I was doing things for a project that I wanted to do for my knitting YouTube channel. And I actually haven't made any progress on that just because I just haven't. I don't know. I kind of had an initial burst of creativity, but then I just haven't. It just kind of stalled out. So who knows if I'll pick that back up. I would like to, but I guess we'll see. So that was originally what I was going to be working from the back to the front of the notebook for. But then once I kind of, you know, hit a slow spot in that, I basically started using the back of this notebook. Let's see, if you read my post about how I was using the Midori before, where I had two notebooks in it. I had one where I was kind of doing this like bullet point journaling thing, and then I had another that was just junk, just, you know, whatever I wanted to put on the page. It was kind of like my, you know, very free creative space. So that's what I was doing with two notebooks, but now I've kind of started doing that from the back of this notebook. So you can see, you know, I was making just notes on things to do for a trip coming up, notes about this video, and then I did some like meal planning, and then just playing around with one of my pens. So not a ton. Like I also, let's see, did some notes for one of my knitting podcast episodes. So basically this became sort of the junk notebook, but it was in the same notebook. It was just working from back to front. So yeah, I still have a lot of pages left. This is all that hasn't been used. So I haven't used that much because I just haven't been writing down that much. But yeah, that's the notebook that I was using. And then I did wind up adding a folder, which I actually haven't really used. So, you know, it's not really, like, I don't need it there. I mostly just put it there to fill out the notebook just a little bit more, I didn't necessarily want to put a second notebook in the cover, but I wanted the cover to just have a little bit more bulk. So I put in this folder, and in the folder is just a little like schedule thing. I was trying to plan when we're going home for Christmas, and then a couple of little like cards in envelopes that I haven't needed. So yeah, that's been that, and this is, I think, the same pen that I started the month with, and it's still going strong. It is a little bit beat up. You can kind of see that a lot of the writing has rubbed off, but yeah. So kind of my thoughts on this. I tried One Book July last year, and it did not work out for me. This year it has worked out remarkably unremarkable. So I know I had talked about, wanting to do sort of like a mid-month update, and I didn't, just because I felt like there was nothing to talk about. Like even now, I'm doing this kind of because I want to wrap it up, but there's not really much to talk about. Basically, it's been super easy for me to keep up with the journaling, and part of that is because I have a reminder set on my phone. So every night at 9 o'clock, it tells me, hey, did you journal today? So that way, like if I, forgot to write anything down, I can really quickly do it then, or sometimes I just won't check it or dismiss the alert, and then I'll do it the next morning. But yeah, it's been really easy for me to keep up with this style of journaling because it's so low pressure. Like I don't have to sit and write very much. I just have to write, like if I just write, the date, bullet point, lazy day, that's enough. That's a journal entry for me. So I really have been liking that system. And I this size, I like this size and I don't like this size. So I'll talk about that in just a second. Let's see, I didn't make any progress on the project. I have liked using only the black pen. I really kind of enjoy that, for these journal pages. I really enjoy that it's just very sort of stark and plain. And I like that. Like I like the visual continuity of it. So I do think I'm going to stick with only a black pen in sort of my whatever notebook that I wind up using. So possible changes that I might make to the system. So I'm really liking the system. I like, the keeping all of the journal entries together up at the front, and then kind of working from the back to the front for other things like lists, or even like grocery lists, or planning out videos, stuff like that. I really sort of like that method, and that's kind of what I seem to have found in the past too, is as what really works for me is doing things this way, like spatially separating the sort of like journaling from the creative brainstorming stuff. So I've been liking that, but I am torn about this size, because this size seems to work very well for me, but it's also not super portable. And I have a trip coming up at the end of this next week where like lugging around something this big is not going to be useful to me. Going back and forth to work every day and just around the apartment, this size works fine, but it's not very portable. And that's what had initially led me to the Midori Passport, was that, it's kind of this same style, but it's a much smaller size. But I'm finding that I don't love the Midori Passport because of the dimensions of it. I really kind of like notebooks that are narrower than they are tall. Yeah, taller than wide. So kind of tall and skinny. I like that format. So I'm actually thinking about going back to something 3.5 by 5.5 size, and seeing how that works, especially for this coming week when I'm going to be, out and about. I don't really want to be traveling with this, just because it's just another thing that has to fit somewhere, and it's not going to fit in my bags and stuff. And I'm actually going to make another video about what I'm taking on this trip and everything, so be on the lookout for that. But this is just not going to work so well. So I'm not going to bring this with us. So I'm going to try out the field notes, fill up a field notes, or well, it's not a field notes, it's a Story Supply Co. notebook, but fill out the pocket notebook size and see if this system can be adapted to that size. So that's one change I'm thinking about. Another change is, I said I really like the black pen. I am thinking about seeing if I can find a good black fountain pen ink to use some of my fountain pens again, to like use some of my Safaris. I'd really like to find, get like a good pigment one, because that's what I really like about the Microns, is knowing that they are, waterproof, they're light, like fade resistant. So I really like that about the Microns. But I would like to, be giving my fountain pens a little bit more love. So I'm thinking about picking up a bottle of either the Sailor Kiwaguro, I think, the Sailor Pigment Black, or the Platinum Pigment Black. I've used the Platinum one before. I had bought a bottle of it and then I left it back in Minnesota when we moved. So, I don't have it anymore, but I liked it just fine. And I've tried the Sailor one as well, and I liked that just fine. So one of those two will probably get bought and maybe switched out. But I also have a lot of microns, so, definitely wouldn't hurt to use these up either. And that's what I am going to be using, starting out with this pocket notebook. So yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, it's been remarkably unremarkable. Like nothing has really changed in my life. I know that in the video at the start of the month, I kind of went through how I'm also doing things digitally. None of that has really changed. I'm still, keeping my calendar in the Google Calendar and, having reminders set up and stuff like that, using the same habit tracker. I'm trying to think of what else. I still, like quick notes that I need to jot down. More often than not, I do it on my phone rather than like in a notebook, just because that's what is always available to me. And especially, and maybe that's a pitfall of this size, but like I didn't carry this with me everywhere. So like if I was talking to one of my, colleagues at work and I needed to make a note about something, I didn't have this with me. So I pulled out my phone, opened up my notes app, and just recorded a note there. And people always say like, oh, people might get offended by that. It's so much more respectful if you use paper. I don't know. Like, I've never had anyone who seemed offended because I pulled out my phone to make a note about what they were saying. Like, it's obvious that I'm not pulling out my phone to like answer a text message because I'm still talking to them about the thing that I'm making. So I don't know. Definitely people are rude and people will pull out their phones to answer a text message while they're talking to you. But I just don't see it as that big of a deal. Like if that's what works best for me, that's what I'm going to keep doing. So yeah, that's kind of my wrap up to One Book July. It's not a very exciting wrap up, but it's been working. So I'm excited to see how the pocket notebook goes. I think I probably for the next 2 days, so today is, Saturday, July 30th. So for today and tomorrow, I think I'm going to be recording my like bullet journal entries, bullet point journaling in both of these, because I really want to have the full month of July in this book, but I also kind of want to get started with this because I'm just impatient. So I will probably be double recording them, and then once August comes, I will be solely in this guy. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. If I remember, I will try and update like once I finish with this, how that went. But yeah, let me know how One Book July went for you if you were doing it. Did you learn anything? Did you have a remarkably unremarkable month, or was it completely life-changing? I'd be very curious to hear. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Like I said, I'm actually going to record another video as soon as I get this one saved to my computer, talking a little bit about the trip that's coming up for me at the end of this coming week, and like what I'm taking with me, and kind of just stuff like that. Hint, it's the DC Pen Show. So yeah, stay tuned for that later this week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.